So good afternoon, everybody. I'm happy to be here, and I hope that this will be a meaningful 35 to 45 minutes of your time. So today, before we begin, before we move on to what I'll be sharing with you, let's do a very quick visualization exercise, okay? Now, recall an encounter with a stranger that you'll never forget. I encourage you guys to imagine in your minds um, a moment where a stranger, somebody you don't know, you haven't met before, had made an impact in your life. Where were you at that time? What did that person say to you? And what did you feel after that encounter? It could have been in a travel experience, you went abroad, or perhaps it was during a commute, or maybe in an event that you went to. It could be a positive situation or a negative experience. Just picture that in your mind. Now, the reason I asked you guys to think about that and I posed this question is that your words, in the same way that the stranger had impacted you to the point that you still remember, or perhaps you were struck by it, or you're changed by it today, in the same way that the stranger made an impact on you, you can also make an impact on other people. So today, that's kind of the goal of my talk. And today, I want to help you become more conscious of the effect of your voice, whether you are speaking to just one person or you're speaking to hundreds or thousands of people. The rules of engagement are the same. So before we get started officially, let us set our intentions. Think of a context where you want to affect people with your voice so that we can make the most out of this next few minutes. Think of a context and keep that thought with you throughout this talk. Who do you want to impact with your voice? It could be people in the workplace. Maybe you want to build a better relationship with people that you work with. Perhaps it's your team. It can also be your personal relationships with your family. Maybe you want them to feel more loved and appreciated, and you want to be more present in their lives. It can also be that you want to build synergies and partnerships with people who have the same goals. You want to collaborate with others, and you want to connect better with others, network. And it could also be that there's simply a story that you want to share. There's simply something that you want to articulate to the world, and you're not completely sure how to express that just yet. So have that intention throughout this talk so that it can be more valuable for you. So today, I'll be sharing with you 3 things. First, I want to share with you the power of your voice, to help you acknowledge the power of your voice, and then discover and shape your voice. And then after that, I want to help you engage others with your voice. All right, so this is going to be hopefully an active experience. So do type down in the chat if anything at all feels true for you, or if you have a different experience, or you want to share anything, any insight at all that you have in your mind. It would be great for you to share it with everyone so that we can all learn from you as well. Okay, just write down your notes and feel free to ask your questions in the chat box. And also, I'll be asking you guys to do a couple of reflections. So I'll be posting some reflection questions, and hopefully you can also share your answers to those if you feel like it. All right, so let's make it a relevant and enjoyable 35 to 45 minutes for you. Now, first, let us start with acknowledging the power of your voice. I want you guys to remember this statement. Every time you open your mouth, you are a speaker. I invite you to also reflect. When was the last time you gave somebody constructive feedback? Where were you at that time? Who did you give it to? What did you say? And what did it leave the person feeling? Did the person feel recharged and excited to grow after what you said? Or did the person feel demotivated or even demoralized after? You see, the impact of giving constructive feedback goes both ways. It can be that you speak possibility in one point, and it can also be that you take somebody's light away with the feedback that you give and the way that you give it. And I imagine that as change makers, we prefer to make the experience a positive one. We want to make it something wherein others would want to grow and improve themselves for the better. So let me widen your awareness more by perhaps showing you the components of your voice, through a framework. So there are three parts or three components to your voice. The first is the intention of your voice, why you say something, why. And second is your content, what you say. And lastly, it's the delivery, how you say it. Now, I want you to reflect. Where does communication often go wrong for you in these three components? Is it the content? Are you not sure what information to provide, or you're not really sure which ideas to share or what stories to tell? Is it the delivery? You're not really sure how to engage with the person that you're talking to. You feel like there's always a tension or awkwardness between you two. Or is it your intention? You're not exactly sure what your intentions are when you're speaking to somebody, which is why, content and delivery don't follow. Let me also share with you that intention and delivery are shaped by context. And when we say context, it has many, many factors. Many factors contribute to content. Let me share with you three of the ones that are most obvious, which are the personality, situation, and timing. So first is personality. Of course, when you're talking to somebody, you want to take into account the personality, right? You want to take into account whether, you're engaging with an introvert or an extrovert, or if you're really connecting with the person's various interests. Like, maybe one reason that it's hard for you to connect with somebody is because you're speaking to them like they're an extrovert, or expecting from them when they're not. When, they prefer to communicate a different way, or they express themselves a different way. Another aspect of context is the situation, the particular circumstance that a person is going through. Let me share with you a story about a guy who was riding the subway home after a long day's work. It was rush hour at the time, and the train stopped in a station where a man went in with two kids. One was, he was carrying one of them, was a baby, was about 1 year old, and the other one he was holding was a 5-year-old. The door closed, and then the train started moving again, and one of the kids started crying, the little baby. The 5-year-old kid started running around the train and making noises. It was rush hour at the time, and it was so cramped, and he was just, holding the bar and moving around and disturbing people. And the man wasn't saying anything. He was just standing up, and the other baby was crying out loud, and everybody was already staring at them, and even staring or motioning at the man to perhaps reprimand his kids. But he was just quiet, and he had a straight face. And after about 10 minutes of that going on, there was this brave man who went up to him and said, "Why don't you tell your kids to shut up? Why can't you tell your kids to shut up? It's a long day, all right? And you're not doing anything to reprimand them." And the guy just said, "Listen, I'm really sorry. I just came from the hospital. My wife just died, and from cancer. Came from the hospital, and I haven't slept all night. I haven't eaten all day, and I have my two kids with me, and I have no idea what I'm going to do. I don't know what to feel. I don't know what to say right now." And so after that, everybody just kept quiet and kind of understood more of the situation that this man was going through. So the whole point of that is that context changes things. Sometimes we think we understand the situation, we interpret it as if we know what's going on, but we're actually seeing the world with our own lens, right? And so with that in mind, it's important for us to be more aware or be more sensitive and inclusive whenever we talk to somebody, because we don't know what the other person is going through. The last thing is timing. And without timing your message, without timing what you're going to say, things won't work. Think of it as like a comedian trying to deliver a joke, right? It is very important for him to deliver the punchline at the right time. He can't say it too early and he can't say it too late, because that will ruin the act completely. It's the same way with effective communication. You want to say things at the right time, right? So we've got content, but we don't consider the context sometimes of the people that we're talking to. And intention may be disconnected with delivery. Sometimes we expect people to participate like they're extroverts, but they're not. And sometimes sometimes women are portrayed negatively in this light when they say to their husbands, it's not what you said, but how you said it. Well, it's actually important how you say something, right? Delivery is very critical. And delivery is both a science and an art. It's a science in a way that you need to know, I think, basic psychology for you to be able to relate better with people. And there are techniques for you to engage people better. But there's also an art, because you're speaking to different people all the time with different personalities. And sometimes when it's a room full of people with different personalities, how do you do it? And you, with your own context, how are you able to elevate or to amplify your uniqueness to make a difference when you speak, right? So this whole section is really about taking ownership over your voice and being aware, or maybe just having this framework or this diagram allows you to be more conscious of the components of your voice, so that you can no longer say the person didn't take it well when you yourself haven't said it well, or you haven't delivered the message well. So we have to accept that we're responsible for this, partly. And that's sometimes the reason why relationships are strained, right? So we have to be more conscious. And through this, we understand the power, the use, and the responsibility that comes with our voice. So I invite you guys again to do a reflection. Which component among the 3 ones that I've shared to you just now can you deliver well? Is it content? Are you sure about your intentions? Is the delivery going well for you? And which component do you feel like you still need to work on? Would be nice to think about that and to just reflect on it, because when we dissect that intangible or that seemingly abstract layer, right, of communication, I think it's easier for us to know how we can do better at it. Okay, so feel free to share with the group, or just type it down in the chat box if you guys have any thoughts on this, and if you'd like to share your reflections. Now, let me talk about discovering and shaping your voice, because you already acknowledge how critical it is, or how powerful it can be. Now you want to shape it. So you want to make an impact. And in order for you to make an impact, well, it's best if you start from your unique voice. It's best if you start with what makes you unique, right? Each one of us has a voice just as unique as our DNA. And each one of us has different energy levels. Each one of us has different contexts that we operate around, different skills, abilities, and talents. We have different textures, the character, that we bring into the conversation. We each are motivated by different feelings, different things. And so that perspective that we bring to the table is very different from another person. Even though we might have a lot of similarities, it still will never be the same. So I invite you to try to get to know yourself better and to figure out what you stand for, the anchors that shape your voice. So I enumerate 5 things here. First is values. Values are what drive you. What are important to you? What motivates you to wake up every day and to go to work every day? You can ask yourself, what things do I love and what things do I hate? I think that gives you a clue as to what things you value, right? And also, you want to know your innate strengths. What am I really good at? What am I really skilled at? What can people trust me with? What do other people say I'm an expert in, perhaps? Or what are the natural abilities that I've had since I was a kid? It's important to not just think about skills, but also attitudes or characteristics, right? And then it's important to also know what you're passionate about. What are your deep interests? What do you always come back to? What activities do you always come back to? Or what do you not mind doing for free for the rest of your life? Okay? What those tell you what your passions are. Like for me, I'm passionate about teaching. I'm passionate about learning. I'm passionate about traveling. I'm passionate about writing. So it can just be as simple as those things, things that when you look back in your life, in the past, you see a pattern that you're always going back to that. And there's also your vision. So to picture your vision in life, maybe you can think about how you want people to remember you in this lifetime. Maybe one day when you're celebrating your birthday at 70 years old, what tribute do you want people to give to you? What impact do you want to make in this world? What do you want to have accomplished in this life? That asking yourself those questions can extract maybe what your vision is. And also, given those 4 things will give you a clue into, will give you a pattern that will lead you to identify your core purpose, how you define your existence in this life. What really is the reason for being? Why are you here? And why do you find meaning, right? So these 5 things, I believe, are underlying factors that shape your unique voice. So it's important that you have a reflection of them and to be more aware of them. Now, I know that you can't get out all of these things in just one sitting, right? When you write them down, but it would be nice if you keep going back to them every now and then and asking yourself these questions, because it takes a lot of experience, it takes a lot of learning for you to really be clear about these things. And I think it takes more than a lifetime because these 5 things will always change. It's possible that you might change a couple of these, but what's important is that you have your unique voice, or you know what you stand for, right? Okay. So now that you know these 5 things, you want to start as well by asking the outcome that you want to achieve with your voice and what you want people to think, feel, and do as a result of your speaking. Because again, every time you open your mouth, you are a speaker and you are responsible for what you say and how it lands, right? So let me share with you just a quick framework that you can do. You can define the different audiences that you speak to. Again, you can go back to the intention that you set, and who is it that you want to impact. It can be your family, it can be your workmates, it can be strangers. So whenever you interact with your family, what do you want them to feel? Do you want them to feel loved, or do you want them to feel appreciated? For example, your workmates, do you also want to feel like you want them to feel that you're there to support them, that you're there to support your boss? And when you lead a team, You want to feel like you're there to also stick with them, to lead them, to rally them toward a goal. And for strangers, you might just want them to think that there are a lot of kind strangers out there, and you're one of them, right? Now, here I set some, I added some examples of what outcome you might want to achieve as a change maker. Personally, these are mine. As a change maker, I want others to be inspired to do better, to be better. And I want others to feel that they're enough, to feel that they're valid, that they're heard, that they're appreciated, and also to think positively about difficult challenges that they encounter in life, and to be more growth-minded, right? So given that we have written down, or we think about what outcome we want to achieve with our voice, we now know, we can think about what we need to have in order to achieve them, and also what may be stopping us from achieving them. So let me enumerate 3. It can be more than this. Your list may be outside of this, or it can be 1 or 2 of these things, but I've listed down some of the most common ones that are keeping us from being more open to the world and sharing or expressing ourselves to people. It may sometimes be fear or anxiousness to get out of our comfort zones. Like a while ago, right before this talk, I felt quite nervous, and I still do have some fear whenever I get out of my comfort zone, because this is actually one of my first few times to give a talk. But how will you use that fear? Will you challenge it? Will you use it as a way to tell you that you need to improve on something, to work on something? Or will you allow yourself to be paralyzed by it? Another thing is insecurity. It may be the limiting beliefs, the negative self-talk, the things that you tell yourself sometimes. It can be you telling yourself, this person is so amazing, and I can't believe that I am stuck here, and that I'm so far still from where I want to be, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not this enough or that enough. I mean, there's a never ending bombardment of that sometimes, if we allow ourselves to accept that talk and to live it out. Now that, if we keep accepting it, paralyzes us. Another thing may be ambivalence, of being uncertain or being unsure about what we stand for. In a debate between 2 extremes, what do we stand for? I don't really know. I'm not sure. I don't know where I derive my truth, or I'm not very, I'm kind of in the middle. And I just allow the waves of culture to take me wherever. So that is ambivalence. And that can be, resolved somehow by reflecting more and getting to know yourself a bit more, slowing down and really questioning what is important to you. So again, these 3 things are common hindrances, but I wouldn't say that they're bad in themselves. They can be healthy, like a certain amount of fear, insecurity, and ambivalence is healthy. But if it reaches a point where it's excessive and it paralyzes us, then that's when it becomes, not very helpful, right? So part of shaping your voice is to prune. Now, what qualities this time do you need to develop in order to achieve those outcomes? Because this is the opposite. At first, what do you need to take away? And now what do you need to have? Can be confidence. Maybe I need to develop more confidence. And for me, it naturally comes out the more you get to know yourself. And also it can be emotional intelligence. Maybe I need to learn how to be more careful in dealing with my own emotions and with other people's emotions, and to manage them well. It can also be that I need to know the different love languages of the person, so that I can express myself in the right way, in a way that they would feel appreciated. And let me share with you one thing that I find really important. It's authenticity. I also want to share with you, when I discovered the power of my voice. It was actually just last year, because I was stuck at this crossroads. I was working full time for the family business, and I reached a point where I felt stuck. It was kind of like a quarter life crisis. I'm not sure if you have encountered this before. If you've reached quarter life already, you might have gone through the same thing. So I felt kind of stuck, and I felt like I didn't have anything that I could call my own, a place of expression, a place where I could really be myself, and just have the energy or the motivation to keep working at it and to keep doing something, because it's something that I believed in and it was something that was meaningful. But during that time, just so happened that I attended a conference of women leaders from all over the world in August last year. And part of that event was a workshop that included that asked us to reflect on, defining our anchors, like the 5 anchors that I shared to you a while ago. We did an exercise where we thought through them, we wrote them down, and we shared them to other women in breakout session. And that moment was just so energizing and enlightening, because I learned from, I learned vicariously from other people's experiences, and they were also passionate and driven and experienced that the energy just rubbed off on me. And it was just so heartfelt that right after that event, I felt the urge to take a video and talk about having a deep sense of self and developing confidence through that. And I posted it online on social media, and I was surprised that I received so many messages about it, because people were telling me that it was something that they needed to hear, and that they were so encouraged, and that they asked me to continue creating content and to write more. And so it was amazing, because I realized the power of my voice at that point, where I just shared something that felt real to me. It was just a reflection, which happened to be real for many other people too. So since then, I also wrote about other things that people don't often talk about. People talk about privately, but that people don't often talk about online, or start a conversation about, like insecurity or envy or anxiety, or ambiguity and things like that. A lot of people related to me, and a lot of people, just gave me the encouragement, or really start asking me questions, and I would just respond to their questions through posts. And it's amazing how much connection I was able to build with them. Right? And I encourage you to do the same. If you ever feel like something is nagging at you, there's something you want to share in the world, and you're not really sure if people are going to relate, or people are going to think it's weird, just keep talking, and if you know that it is going to bring value to other people, just go for it, because most likely it will, right? You'll never know until you try that. And always keep in mind that you're writing, or you're creating something, or you're sharing to just one person. Even if you're sharing to one person and you've made an impact in that person's life, that's enough. All the other people who were impacted by what you said is a bonus. One person is enough for you to keep doing what you're doing, right? And that's kind of what's motivating me now. So since then, I spoke in a couple of events, and like I said, this is one of my first few events, and I continue to collaborate with others too. And on top of that, I also started a self-directed growth movement online, which Pizza pointed out a while ago. Own Bloom, right? So it's really important to be authentic. It really starts with authenticity. Authenticity is about aligning the person that you are in the dark of the night, when nobody's looking at you, with the person that you are in front of other people, person that you are on social media. It requires us, and it's quite difficult, because it requires us to be honest, even when it's uncomfortable. It requires us to share our convictions, to have an opinion, even though other people might not agree with us. And it's difficult because we have been pressured, or we have been conditioned all our lives to behave a certain way, right? It started out when we were in school. Like when we were in high school, we were pressured probably by our peers to conform to the status quo, or at work, where with our colleagues and bosses, there is a certain company culture that we need to adapt to, and also in society, right? And wherein, for example, it's just not normal for us to strike up a conversation with a stranger, at least in the Philippines, right? So we're conditioned to mix in with the crowd, and because of that, sometimes we feel like we need to conform. Even on social media, sometimes we need to express, or we need to display ourselves a certain way, but not necessarily. Sometimes the best way is to just be yourself and to be truthful, right? So transparency, it takes time and courage. And with me, it took many, many years. It took a lot of encounters to reach this point. So I'm telling you that if you don't feel like you're there yet, it's okay. It's okay to be honest with that. And it's okay to accept that, right? Apart from the experiences, reflection is also very important, and action, and getting out of your comfort zone. It's funny how it's so unnatural for us to be human. Anyway, let me invite you guys to reflect once again. What did you realize after what I just said? Was there anything that struck? Please feel free to share. Would be great if we can all learn from you too. And in what ways can you be authentic to the people around you? How do you build connection with others? How do you build trust? Maybe you can share ways in which you've done that before. Right? Now we have become more aware of our voice, and we also know more or less how we can discover our voice and shape our voice. I shared with you some frameworks for those. Now, how do we engage others with our voice? Let me share with you 4 things that you can do, maybe 4 principles that you can keep in mind. First is to be present. You'll be surprised that a lot of people in this very, very noisy world, although we have so many platforms for us to speak, a lot of people don't feel heard still. A lot of, people just tell me that, I just hear from people and they say that I'm really good at giving them my attention and being present with them. And that makes me sad to know that there are a lot of people who don't feel like they don't have that. And so make yourself present when you're speaking to people, right? Try to eliminate the distractions as much as possible and give them 100% of you. Reflect maybe, are you speaking to be heard often? Or are you often waiting to speak when you listen to someone? Or are there often a lot of wandering thoughts when somebody is speaking, right? So it's important that we talk to people, or we listen to people with the intent to listen. And some ways that you can do that, perhaps a couple of techniques, would be in making people feel acknowledged, would be to call people by their name, because their name is the sweetest sounding word in the world to them, right? Calling people by their name, acknowledging what they say, and repeating what they say, and nodding and making eye contact with them, using your body language and showing them that you're engaged and you're enrolling with them. Those are great ways for you to show presence. Another principle would be to be curious, to just be curious, to want to get to know the other person, because you're 100% present. You're 100% there to listen and to ask questions. Asking questions is really, really powerful in creating a dialogue and conversation with the other person, not just with one person, but it could be many people, for example. when you're giving a talk or when you're speaking to your team, ask questions, because I think it's a way for people to warm up to you, because they can share more about their thoughts, share more of their stories and experiences, and it's a way for you to build a relationship with them, right? You're allowing them to open up their world to you with empathy. The third thing is to create a safe space. You know, we live in this world where we feel like we're progressing and we're becoming more and more connected. We are, you know, there are never-ending list of platforms opening up for us to be more social and to be more connected with other people. But another effect of that is that we become more polarized. You know, on social media, people take to the extremes. People would start word wars and would just live in their own bubble. And that's not exactly very healthy. And even in our very homes or in our workplaces, we may share the same room, but we're not really sharing the same space, emotional space, if you know what I mean. And, you know, we're not really, it's like there's a wall between us. There's a wall between us and people that we are with physically. And so we want to create a safe space. We want to create a place where there is no judgment in our relationship. And that relationship is also built on concern and genuine concern and love for the other person. So whenever you're having a confrontation with somebody, or you're just having a heartfelt discussion with a person, you want to be clear of your intentions, that, you know, wherein you want to give them good feedback in order for them to improve themselves. And this is not in any way to degrade other people, right? And also, whenever you're just trying to strike up a conversation with somebody, show them that you're there. And so things that you might need to abandon to make those happen would be your grudges that you might be holding, or your ego, or your pride, and not wanting to talk to a person in an engaging manner, right? So take out whatever it is that is standing in the way, and build that trust within your relationship. The last thing is very powerful. It's telling a story. A story is a tool, because we each have different struggles. And the beautiful thing is that we tend to share the same struggles with other people. And there is a lot of power in just telling your stories with others. I mean, if you reflect back in your life and the highs and lows of it, I'm pretty sure that when you share it to a crowd of 100 people, somebody would probably say, hey, I've experienced kind of the same thing too. Or I've gone through the same experience. And that allows you instantly to build a connection, right? And it stirs the emotions of your audience. We do that all the time. We tell stories all the time, but we can be more conscious of it. If we become more conscious of it and using it to enroll others, we achieve 10 times the personal impact, right? So I invite you guys to reflect again. What did you realize after the 4 things that I shared to you? In what ways do you build a wall with the people around you? And how can you tear that wall down, possibly? Think about the intention that you set at the start of this talk. How do you break down those walls? And also, I invite you to write your stories. I invite you to write your valleys, your lows, and your highs, your triumphs, and narrate them vividly to connect with other people. See, your life does not need to be perfect, and you don't need to be an expert in order for you to speak up and to engage. Your experiences, your perspective are special and unique in themselves. So stop looking at other people and using their measuring stick to gauge your progress, because wherever you are today is enough. So today we talked about acknowledging the power of your voice, intention, the content and the delivery, three components of your voice. And also we tried to discover and shape, I showed you frameworks for discovering and shaping your voice, and being clear what your anchors are, what you stand for, and also in looking into the future, or in looking into the outcome and of that you want to achieve, and reverse engineering and thinking about what is keeping you from achieving that outcome and what you need to have to achieve it. And also the importance of authenticity, because that really is where leadership, true and genuine leadership, starts. And also talked about engaging other people with our voice through being present, through being more curious, by building a safe space, and in sharing stories. Oh, and by the way, it's not just sharing your own story. You may also share other people's stories too. And so I hope that that short 40 minutes was valuable to all of you. I hope that I was able to strike something in you. Whether or not I was able to, I'd still be happy to hear from you, to maybe chat or to continue the conversation. Feel free to send me an email. And also, I have a worksheet of the frameworks that I showed to you guys, the reflection questions that I flashed a while ago. Just go to this website, bit.ly/speaking possibility. I'd be happy to connect with you on social media as well. So thank you so much, ESME, for having me, and to the ASEAN Youth Organization too. I'm super glad that to be spending this afternoon with you.